The heat from the fire cooked my face even from across the street. I watched the home where I raised my child burn, and the sound of it breaking apart was the worst sound I had ever heard. My whole life was turning into black smoke. Right next to me, my daughter Emily was just looking at her phone. The only light on her face was from her little screen, not from the huge orange flames in front of us. She looked up at my tears and rolled her eyes. "Stop crying," she said, her voice flat. "It's just a house fire." Those words hurt more than the fire. It felt like a knife in my heart. Friend, before I tell you about the terrible secret I had on my own phone, a secret that proved this was no accident, please do me a kindness. Tap subscribe so you're with me when I show them that you can't break a strong woman. I looked at my daughter, Emily, and her cold, empty eyes. She had no idea what I was truly crying about. She thought this was about a house, but what she didn't know was that I had just checked the cameras. And I saw everything. Only an hour before, everything was normal. The house was quiet and safe. I was in my bed, fluffing my pillows and getting ready to sleep. I remember the soft feel of my old quilt and the quiet click of the lamp as I turned it off. It was just another normal night in the house my husband Mark and I had built together. But as I lay in the dark, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It made a soft sound. Brr, brr. I almost did not get it. It was a notice from the security camera on the back porch, and it was usually just a cat or a raccoon looking for food. But something inside me, a strange feeling in my stomach, told me to look. I picked up the phone. The screen was so bright in the dark room. I opened the camera app, my fingers shaking just a little bit as I pressed the button to see the live video, not knowing I was about to see my whole world end. The video showed our backyard. It was grainy and grey from the camera's night vision. I saw the old oak tree and the swing set where Emily used to play. Then, from the side of the garage, a person in a dark hoodie walked out. They were carrying a red can, a gas can. My heart started to beat like a drum. My blood turned to ice when I saw who it was. The person pulled the hood back, and it was my daughter, Emily. Another person came out of the shadows to join her. He was tall, and he put his arm around her. It was her boyfriend, Liam. I watched, unable to move, as Liam handed Emily a small lighter. My mind screamed, but I could not make a sound. All I knew was that I had to save the video. I pressed the download button, my hands trembling, just as I heard the first siren in the distance. We live in a cheap motel now. The room smells like old soap and the beds are hard. While my heart is broken, my daughter Emily acts like nothing is wrong. She complains that the Wi-Fi is slow. She looks at me with annoyed eyes when I cry, and I see her boyfriend Liam in her empty stare. I know I have to find out why she did this, but I can't ask her. Not yet. I need to understand the boy who did this to her, the boy who turned my daughter into a stranger. I can't just sit here and let them get away with it. The fire took my past, but I will not let them take my future too. So, with the secret video of them saved on my phone, I decided to start with him. That night, in the dark and quiet of that sad little room, I opened my laptop and typed Liam's full name into the search bar. I had to know who he really was. At first, all I found were perfect pictures. Liam was smiling with his family. Liam was getting good grades at school. Liam was helping old dogs at the animal shelter. He looked like the perfect son, the perfect friend. It made me feel sick because I knew the truth. But I kept digging, scrolling through old town news from years ago. And then I found it. A small story about a fire at an old warehouse across town. The paper said it was an accident, but a boy was there who called the police. His name was Liam. It felt too strange to be a coincidence. But that was not the biggest shock. The real shock was the picture in the article. It was a picture of the town's fire marshal, a man praised for his good work. And standing right next to him with his arm on the man's shoulder was his son, Liam. My body went cold. Liam's father was the fire marshal. He was the man in charge of all the fires in the county. He was the man who decided if a fire was an accident. My heart felt like a stone in my chest. Now I understood why Emily was not scared. She knew they would get away with it. Liam's father had the power to hide the truth. He could make an evil act look like an accident. He could make all the proof just disappear. My daughter didn't just burn down our home. She joined a family with power, a family that protects its own secrets. I looked at my phone, at the video I had saved. A simple video of 2 kids in the dark. I knew right then that it was not enough. It was my word against the most powerful fire expert in the state. I was all alone in this fight. I could not fight a fire marshal head-on. He had power, and I had nothing but a cheap motel room and a broken heart. So I made a new plan. I could not fight him, but maybe I could fight for my daughter, Emily. I had to break the hold her boyfriend Liam had on her. I had to save her from him. So I decided to plant a small worry in her mind, a worry that would grow and grow. One morning, I waited for my daughter, Emily, to go into the bathroom for her shower. I opened my laptop to the old news story about the warehouse fire, the one with Liam's picture in it. I just left the laptop on her messy bed, where she could not miss it. I sat on my own bed, pretending to read a book, but my heart was beating fast. I heard the water in the shower turn off. A moment later, she walked out. Her eyes went right to the computer screen, and I saw her face change. For the first time in a long time, my daughter looked afraid. For the next 2 days, Emily was different. She was quiet. She stopped complaining about the motel. She just sat on her bed and stared at the wall. The small worry I had planted was working. It was growing inside her. She kept looking at me when she thought I was not paying attention. She knew that I knew something was wrong. Then, one evening, I saw her do something strange. She thought I was sleeping, but I was watching her through my tired eyes. She pulled a second phone out from under her pillow. It was a cheap plastic phone I had never seen before. Her fingers moved so fast as she typed a message to someone. My mind was racing. Why did she have a secret phone? Was she texting her boyfriend Liam? If she was, why was she hiding it? It meant she had a secret she was keeping from the boy who had helped her destroy our lives. I needed help. I could not do this by myself anymore. I thought about the perfect family pictures of Liam and his father, the fire marshal. But then I remembered his mother. In every picture, her smile looked sad. Her eyes looked tired. I thought, maybe, just maybe, she was a prisoner in that perfect family, just like my Emily was. It was a crazy idea, a big risk, but it was the only idea I had. I used a library computer to make a new email address, one she could not know was me. I found the email for his mother, Jessica. She worked at the local college. My hands were shaking as I wrote the email. I know what your son does, I wrote. My house was not the first one. Your son needs help. I clicked send, thinking she would just delete it. But 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a new email. It was from her. The message had only 5 words. Meet me at the bookstore. Tomorrow. The back of the bookstore was dark and smelled like old paper. Liam's mother, Jessica, was sitting in a booth hiding in the corner. She looked like a scared bird. She told me she was so sorry. She said she had known for years that her son, Liam, was sick. He loved fire too much, and his father, the fire marshal, just kept cleaning up his messes. Jessica told me her husband covered up 2 other fires when Liam was younger. He paid people to be quiet and had files hidden so no one would ever know. She had been living a lie for years, trapped and afraid of her own son and husband. Then she leaned in close, and her voice was a tiny whisper. It's not about the money for Liam, she said, her hands shaking so hard she spilled her water. He's sick. He is trying to copy the fire from years ago, the one that killed his older brother. I just stared at her, my mouth open. A brother? Liam had a brother who died in a fire? Jessica's eyes filled with tears. She said when Liam was a little boy, his older brother David died in a fire at their home. Everyone said it was a sad accident, but Jessica knew it was not. She told me she found matches under Liam's bed after the fire. She tried to tell her husband, but he would not listen. He refused to believe his sweet little boy could do something so evil. So he built a wall of lies around their family, telling everyone it was a gas leak. But Liam's love for fire only got bigger and bigger. He was chasing that first fire, the one that took his brother. Now I knew the truth. My daughter Emily was not with a normal boy. She was with a monster his own father had protected for years. And that monster was still trying to finish something he had started long ago. Just when I thought things could not get any worse, my phone rang. It was a man from my insurance company. His name was Mr. Klein, and his voice was cold and sharp like a piece of broken glass. He was not calling to help me. He was calling to ask questions. He asked me about my money. He asked me if I had debts. He asked questions that made it sound like I was the one with secrets. I felt a cold dread creep up my back. It was happening. Liam's father was not just hiding his son's crime. He was busy building a case against me. He was using his power and all his knowledge about fires to make me look like the bad guy. "We find that fires like this often happen when people need money, ma'am," Mr. Klein said. I realized I was trapped. If I told the police about the video now, they would think I made it to frame a poor innocent boy. The video was not enough. My word was not enough. I needed real proof, something I could hold in my hand. Something that showed everyone that her boyfriend, Liam, was at my house that night. I kept seeing the video in my mind over and over. I saw him and my daughter Emily with the red gas can. Then, an idea hit me. What if they had brought two? That night I did something dangerous. I drove back to my house, or what was left of it. It was just a black skeleton under the moon, all taped off with yellow police tape. I snuck under the tape and used my phone's little light to see. I went to the back porch where I saw them in the video. I dug through the black, wet mess. And then my fingers hit something hard. It was another red gas can. It was empty. Tied to the handle was a small silver chain, and on the chain was a little silver wolf. It was the mascot for Liam's high school football team. I had my proof. I drove back to the motel, my heart pounding in my ears. I held the gas can in a plastic bag. I finally had a real weapon to fight with. I decided it was time. It was time to talk to my daughter, Emily. I waited for her to come back from her job at the diner. When she walked in, I was sitting on the bed with the gas can on the table. She saw the can, and all the colour left her face. She looked like she had seen a ghost. All her anger, all her coldness, just melted away. She fell onto her bed and started to cry. It was the first time I had seen her cry since the fire. "He said no one would get hurt." She sobbed into her pillow. "He said his dad would take care of everything. But he scared me, Mum. The way he loves fire, it's not normal. I was so scared." The whole truth came out, mixed with her tears. I held my daughter, and for the first time, I felt like we were on the same side again. The next morning, I felt a little bit of hope for the first time. I had the proof. I had my daughter's words. I thought, today is the day I go to the police. Today is the day this all ends. I was making coffee when I heard a loud knock on our motel room door. My heart jumped. I thought maybe it was Liam's mother, Jessica, coming to help. But when I opened the door, my hope disappeared. 2 police officers were standing there, and behind them, with a cold smile on his face, was Mr. Klein, the insurance man. "Sarah," one of the officers said, "you are under arrest." They told me the fire marshal had found proof that I started the fire myself. They said I did it for the insurance money. I tried to tell them about the gas can, but they just shook their heads. They put my hands behind my back and put me in handcuffs, right in front of my daughter. I had walked right into their trap. They put me in a small grey room with a metal table. It was very cold. A police officer told me I had 1 phone call. My mind was spinning. I could call a lawyer, but what good would that do? The fire marshal was too powerful. He had already twisted the truth until it looked like a pretzel. I knew I had to do something different. I had to take one last big chance. I did not call a lawyer. I did not call my daughter, Emily. I called the one person who was as trapped as I was. I called Liam's mother, Jessica. When she answered the phone, her voice was small and scared. I spoke very calmly, even though my heart was breaking. "Jessica, it's Sarah," I said. "They arrested me. Your husband is framing me for the fire, but I have the second gas can and Emily is ready to tell the police everything." I took a deep breath. "You need to make a choice, Jessica. Right now." Then I hung up the phone, leaving only silence. The hours passed so slowly. Each tick of the clock on the wall sounded like a hammer hitting a nail. They gave me a sad-looking lawyer who told me to just admit I did it. He said I might get less time in jail if I made a deal. I told him no. I sat on the hard chair and waited. My whole plan, my whole life, now rested on that one phone call. I prayed that Liam's mother, Jessica, had the strength to do the right thing. I prayed that a mother's love for the truth was stronger than a wife's fear. Every time I heard footsteps in the hall, my body would get tight. Was it the fire marshal coming to laugh at me? Was it the police coming to take me to a jail cell? The night was so long, and I felt so alone. Finally, after what felt like forever, the door opened. A detective I had not seen before walked in. He just stood there for a moment, looking at me, and I could not tell what he was thinking. The detective pulled out a chair and sat down. "Well, Sarah," he said, letting out a long breath, "this has been a very strange night. You are free to go." I could not believe what I was hearing. I just stared at him. How could this be real? He told me that an hour ago a woman had walked into the police station and left a box at the front desk. She did not give her name. She just left the box and walked away. Inside the box was a secret doctor's file about Liam, papers that said he had a sickness, a love for fire. The detective said the box also had a cheap burner phone with text messages on it. Messages between Liam and his father, the fire marshal. They talked about how to start the fire and how to blame me for it. Jessica had not just helped me. She had given the police everything they needed. My trap had failed, but hers had worked perfectly. When I left the police station, the sun was coming up. The world felt new. The detective showed me the papers from the box before I left. They were from Liam's doctor from a long time ago. As I read them in my car, my blood ran cold. The words on the page painted a picture of a very sick boy. A boy with no feelings. A boy who liked to control people and hurt them. The doctor wrote that Liam was a hunter. He looked for girls who were sad or lonely. He would find girls who were fighting with their families, and he would pretend to be their hero. He would make them feel special and strong. Then he would trap them. He would make them his partners in his dark games. My heart broke into a million pieces. My daughter Emily was not his partner. She was just the next girl. She was the next victim in his long, sick game. And I knew with a terrible feeling in my stomach that if he was not stopped, there would be another girl after her. The police were building their case against Liam and his father, the fire marshal. But the law moved slowly. They needed papers from a judge, and that took time. But I felt like time was running out. I could not sleep. I could not eat. I just kept reading the doctor's notes about Liam's sickness, looking for something, anything. And then I saw it. It was a date, written over and over in the file. It was the date of the warehouse fire. It was the date of another fire years ago that had been covered up. It was the same date. August 22nd, the day his brother David had died. He did it on the same day, every single time. It was his special day, a dark birthday for his evil acts. I grabbed my calendar, my hands shaking. I looked for August. My whole body went cold. August 22nd was in 2 days. He was going to do it again, and he was going to do it soon. I ran to the police. I showed them the dates. I told them that Liam was going to set another fire in 2 days. The detective was kind, but he told me to calm down. He said, "We are watching him, Sarah. He is not going anywhere. We have a car outside his house 24 hours a day." But I knew they were wrong. They were watching a boy, but I knew he was a monster. A monster is smart. A monster knows how to hide. A monster knows how to wait for the perfect time to strike. They would not catch him until it was too late, until another home was burned, until another girl was trapped. I could not let that happen. I could not sit in my motel room and wait for the phone to ring with bad news. My fight was not over. It was not enough to save my own daughter. Now I had to save the next one. And I had to do it all by myself. I had to figure out where he was going to be in 2 days. I had to know where he would go. Where was his special place? There was only one person who might know. I went to my daughter, Emily. She was sitting on her bed looking out the window. She was still quiet, but her eyes were not empty anymore. I asked her, "Emily, did Liam ever talk about a place that was special to him? A place he would go to be alone?" Emily looked at me, her face pale. She nodded slowly. "His family had an old cabin," she said in a small voice. "It's by Miller Lake. He told me that's where his brother died. He called it the place of the first fire." My heart stood still. That was it. That was where he would go to finish his dark ritual. He was going to go back to the place where it all began. I knew what I had to do. I grabbed my car keys from the table. "Come on," I said to Emily. "We're going for a drive." She didn't ask why. She just got up and followed me out the door. The drive to the cabin took an hour. The trees on the road got thicker and thicker until we were all alone. The cabin was old and sad, with broken windows that looked like empty eyes. It was a scary place. We got out of the car and walked to the front door. It was unlocked. Inside it smelled like old smoke and dust. The place was mostly empty. But someone had been there. There was a new sleeping bag on the floor and empty food cans. He was getting it ready. Then we saw the drawings on the wall. They were pictures of fire drawn over and over in black marker. Underneath the pictures of flames, there was a name. The same name, written again and again. It was not Emily's name. It was not my name. It was a girl's name I had never seen before. The name was Chloe. Liam had already found his next girl. We drove back to the motel so fast. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. We had a place. We had a name. Now we just needed a face. I opened my laptop and went to a social media website. I typed in the name Chloe and the name of our town. A lot of girls came up. How would I find the right one? My daughter Emily looked over my shoulder. "Look for a girl who looks sad," she whispered. "He likes girls who are sad." We looked through the pictures one by one, then Emily pointed at the screen. "That's her," she said. The girl in the picture had sad eyes. She was all alone in her photos, and in her list of friends I saw his name. Liam. We had found her. He was already in her life. I looked at the clock on the wall. We had less than 24 hours to save her. I had to warn her family. I found their phone number online and my finger hovered over the call button, my heart pounding. I pressed the call button. My heart felt like it was going to beat right out of my chest. A man answered the phone. "Hello?" he said. I took a deep breath. "My name is Sarah," I said. "You do not know me, but your daughter, Chloe, is in terrible danger." At first he was angry. He thought I was a crazy person. He was about to hang up. "Wait," I said. "The boy she is with, his name is Liam. He is sick. He likes to set fires. My own daughter was one of his victims." I told him everything as fast as I could. I told him to look for a secret phone or a red gas can. There was a long silence on the phone. I could hear him breathing. Then, his voice came back, but it was different. It was full of fear. "What do we do?" he asked. I told him my plan. We were not just going to stop him. We were going to make sure everyone in town saw the monster for who he really was. The next day was the town's Founders' Day picnic. Everyone would be there. The whole town, all in one place. It was the perfect stage. I spoke to Chloe's father again. We made a plan. Chloe would pretend to go with Liam to the old cabin. but instead she would tell him she wanted to stop at the picnic first. I spent all morning getting my weapons ready. I put the video from my security camera onto a little memory stick. I made copies of the doctor's notes about Liam's sickness. I put everything in my old bag. This was it. There was no turning back. I was scared, more scared than I had ever been. That afternoon I called my daughter Emily. I told her I loved her, and I told her to stay in the motel room no matter what. I did not want her to be there. I did not want her to see what was about to happen. This was a fight I had to finish alone. The park was full of happy people. Families were eating hot dogs and children were laughing. It all felt so normal, but my stomach was in knots. I found a spot on a bench where I could see everything. I held my bag on my lap like it was a bomb. Then I saw them. Liam and Chloe, walking across the grass, holding hands. They looked like any other young couple. Liam was smiling. A few minutes later, the fire marshal and his wife, Jessica, arrived. Liam's father was acting like a king, shaking hands and kissing babies. He had no idea his perfect world was about to burn to the ground. I saw the town mayor walk up to the little stage at the front of the park. He tapped the microphone. "Welcome, everyone," he said in a loud, happy voice. This was my signal. My heart hammered in my chest as I stood up from the bench and began to walk toward the stage. I walked up the steps to the stage. The mayor looked at me, confused. I asked him if I could say something. My voice was shaking. I looked out at all the faces in the crowd. I saw Liam and his father, the fire marshal, staring at me. They looked angry. I took a deep breath and began to speak. I told them my story. I told them how my house burned down. I told them about the boy who my daughter, Emily, was so afraid of. The fire marshal started laughing. He shouted that I was a sad, crazy woman who was angry about losing her insurance money. He told everyone not to listen to me. "You are right," I said, my voice suddenly strong. "You should not just listen to me. You should see for yourself." I took the small memory stick from my bag. I gave it to the man running the sound system and pointed to the big screen behind the stage. A second later, the video started to play. The whole town went quiet as they watched Liam and my daughter on my back porch with a red gas can. The crowd gasped. Liam's mother, Jessica, let out a loud cry. The fire marshal's face was white. "It's a fake!" he screamed. "That video is a fake! This crazy woman made it to hurt my family!" Liam was trying to pull Chloe away, to run, but Chloe's father stood in their way like a wall. I looked at the fire marshal. "You are a fire expert," I said calmly. "So you are right. A video can be faked." I saw a small look of hope on his face, but then I reached into my bag one last time. "But a phone record cannot be faked." I held up my phone. I had a habit. When I was scared, I used to call my husband's old voicemail just to hear his voice. I called him that night right after I saw the video. And I have the recording of my voice, crying and telling him what I was seeing, from 2 minutes before the first 911 call was ever made. The fire marshal's face crumbled. He knew he was beaten, and at that moment my daughter, Emily, walked through the crowd to stand beside me. It all ended very quickly after that. The police, who were already at the picnic, arrested Liam and his father. The whole town finally saw them for who they really were. The next few weeks were hard, but my daughter Emily and I faced them together. We were finally starting to heal. A month later, a small box came in the mail. It was from Jessica, Liam's mum. Inside was an old burned diary. It was from David, the brother who died. I read it, and the truth was worse than I ever knew. Liam had hurt his brother for years. The first fire was not an accident. It was murder. My fight was not over. I thought about the other families Liam had hurt. They deserved to know the real truth. They deserved justice too. A new fire was lit inside me, not a fire of anger, but a fire for justice. Friend, thank you for staying with me to the very end. If you believe that strength isn't about how you fall, but how you get back up, then please tap subscribe and join our community. You won't want to miss the stories we share next. I've picked out another story just for you, and you should see it on the screen now. I hope to see you there.